And now, presenting the Bird Brain Productions logo.
Look at it. Look, it's good. Look, there it is. That's the logo.
Well, lower. Hey, so we're Bird Brain Productions, and we're taking a look at Season 9 of new Doctor Who.
I'm the Bird.
And I'm the Brain. Is this a thing we're doing? I'm Sam.
I'm Matt. I think that's the thing we're doing. I just did it. That is what it means for us to be doing it. We did it.
So here's my little piece of paper. I got my grades on it. I wrote them tiny in this little square in the corner, even though I had the whole page to use.
And I, of course, have awfully huge handwriting, so you can't actually see it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I want to show up my grades. I want to win the grades. I want to win at grading.
So
it's a competition.
We watched the whole season, and so those videos are up on the channel. The first 2 episodes we did as a single part, because that's just what happened. We didn't start grading them until partway through, and as far as I know, it was just a knee-jerk, sudden decision you made in the middle of an episode. You're like, so what would you do if you graded this? Like, are we grading this?
I misinterpreted the previous episode as you having decided to end it with a grade.
Oh, okay.
I misremembered, so I just assumed that was what we were doing. Just like saying I'm the bird and he's the brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do now.
So, so we can grade the episodes in this video that we didn't grade at the time, and we can regrade episodes that we did grade at the time but regretted, which was a number of them.
Yep. Past Matt has really weird standards.
Standards that can change from week to week if you're not looking at them as a...
Past Matt gives ridiculously bad grades gave a bad grade to an episode he loved
because you were scared that you were overpraising it.
That wasn't me. That was Past Matt.
Yeah,
take it up with him.
Different guy. Oh, one other thing. Reiteration of an idea we had a couple videos ago. The grades are F, then D minus, C, D plus, etc. through all the grades.
Yep.
And then above A plus is S, and an S is a more impressive A plus, basically.
Yep.
And what I was rolling with, and I think we got a tiny slight difference between what we're calling an S, which is fine, is what would be an A plus grade for an episode, except that you just truly adore this episode. It really speaks to you.
Yep. To me, what an S is, an A plus is this episode was great. I loved it. I think it did everything right. And an S is, it's great. I loved it. I think it did everything better than it possibly could have.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's something that, it's like, when you see a guy shoot a basket from all the way on the other court in the last second to win the game, and you're just like...
Yeah, because if you hit that from mid-court, I would be applauding raucously too, but you hit that from the other side. That wasn't even like a thing I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that you could do that.
Yeah, or if you happen to like the footballs, one of the 2 footballs, the American or the... It's sort of like, imagine, this just a perfectly executed play by a wide receiver, or like just a perfect mix of the midfielder and the wingman, and just like going in and scoring. You're like, I don't know how you guys thought of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happened.
But what we share is the idea that the S should be awarded only as a rare thing that you don't see all the time.
Yep. Most seasons of Doctor Who don't have any S's in them.
Agreed.
Did this season of Doctor Who have an S? Let's find out. And let's start at the top.
Indeed.
So, you got the full name.
Yep. Magician's Apprentice. That's where we started. I guess I'll just give my grade and then some of my reasons.
Yeah, go for it.
I gave it a B minus. It's got a lot of interesting characters, I'd say, a lot of history. It feels like rich in the Doctor's past, and in a way that's interesting. It's a bit slow. You got quite a bit of build-up. Not that much actually happens in the episode when you actually take a look at what occurs. There's a lot of setting things up.
All right.
And the stakes aren't really clear at all.
Yeah, that's a problem. If you're going to do a two-part like that, you got to at least use it to establish the stakes. And I don't know
Because
what
at the end of
stakes
it, like the Daleks are back and they're all scary and they apparently kill Clara and Missy. But I mean, first of all, I wasn't convinced. And I don't think it was a particularly convincing death. But more importantly, that doesn't seem to indicate how there will be a problem in the future.
Yep.
It seemed like a freak accident that they died, and not a sign of what was standing in the Doctor's way.
Yeah, though of course So here is my grit, and I felt like it did. Anyway, what I gave it is I gave it a C plus, and we didn't originally grade this episode.
Yeah.
I don't. I tend not to want to reevaluate something based on its second part as a lot.
Yeah. Well, it has to stand on its own under the circumstances that you were intended to be watching it.
Yeah. The thing on the other hand, I'm kind of making an exception if you bring in a cliffhanger or something like that, because it did not end fairly. The cliffhanger in that was not fair. So I don't
Deceptive, you think?
Deceptive. I mean, it implies he's about to shoot this small child.
Yeah.
Now, I might say the Doctor does not shoot small children in the face. On the other hand, you imply that that is at least a thing he might have been considering.
I mean, what I see here is either it's something he's considering, which is a misstep for the show, or we're misinterpreting what's really going on, which is what I was guessing, and in which case it's just more weird and mysterious, or weird and slightly mysterious, and not really a hook.
Yeah.
Either you think that they're screwing up, or it's not that effective of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. To me, I might not have minded if they convinced me that this was a situation where the Doctor could have considered doing something beyond the pale in his grief or whatever. But the thing is, at the very least, the payoff on that, where he shows up and he pointing a gun at baby Davros.
Yeah.
Of the prophecy, there will be an asshole named Davros, but there's only one in the world. The baby Davros didn't feel like it was a payoff that really counted, and I did not. I don't like that because I didn't think it was a cliffhanger that ended up having led me to any conclusion, because it ended up, yes, I misinterpreted it, but I misinterpreted it, like the proper interpretation was the most obvious thing from a character perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was just going to shoot the hand mines, okay.
Now, there's not really an obvious way to redo this scene that would make it a surprising character change. But that's not on us as reviewers. You know, they set themselves up for this moment, but ultimately the moment didn't really have potential to be exciting.
I'm going to say that I think actually maybe you could do this better.
Okay.
By having him not actually draw and point a gun at the kid.
I do think that would have been better, because then he's come back. Why is he coming back? To save him? And then we would think, oh, what if he's here to kill him?
Yes.
And then it would be our idea, Inception.
Yes.
See?
So, are you saying Inception is somehow related to movie making?
Maybe in a slight way.
It's an interesting idea, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, what I think is that, you know, have him, you know, show back up and be like, and they could be like, what are you doing? I'm saving my friends.
Yeah.
That would be okay. Then I don't even mind that you've had him deliver the line in a goofy way for this actual situation, since he is about to help the kid.
And then when that scene actually happens in the second episode of this, he shows up with the gun. He shows up and we know he has the gun, and we see him with the gun, and we're like, uh-oh. Oh god, he's actually going to kill Davros.
Well, that scene's actual placement was after the kids' friends have been saved. That's kind of the situation.
Yeah, in which case we're like, what? Oh yeah, Mercy. Wait.
Oh, he's bootstrapping this paradox.
Yep.
So having him show back up and say, I'm saving my friends, in that case we would see all the angle was actually about Missy.
Okay.
He's pissed off at Missy. for betraying him and all that, but he's still going to save her, and he's just not happy about it. So he's like, I'm saving my friends. And then he draws the gun and shoots the hand grenade. You know,
The hand mine.
the hand mine,
Yes,
yes.
a hand grenade is a real thing. Moffat wouldn't include one.
And so he shoots the hand mines, and
Yeah.
you know, like the first time we would have maybe seen that he is holding a gun, but we wouldn't know why.
Yeah, he wouldn't point it.
Yeah.
One last thought on this episode.
Yeah.
It's just that Missy is, after last season's finale, or season 8's finale, Missy's, as far as a comic and a dramatic character, was a little bit more disappointing.
Yep.
She's less funny, and she feels feels more out of place.
Yep. And to a certain extent, we are also talking about like how the next episode. We're
Yeah.
talking about the next episode too here, but just trying to focus on just this episode. The only reason I was bringing up the next one was because I'm talking about why I'm not going to give credit to a cliffhanger.
Sure.
If you don't pay it off, is yeah. So all in all, I felt other than that, it meandered a lot. It just got the players into position for the next episode without ever giving me a compelling arc to how they got there. Part of the problem is I don't think it's good storytelling. I don't think it's good characterization. If your characters only do the only thing you can do in that situation. You know, it's like if there is a button that will destroy the world if pushed, and I see somebody going to push it, I will stop that person from pushing the button. That doesn't make me a great character, because I've not had to make any difficult choice or exemplify myself in any way other than I like the world. That's where I keep all my stuff. So, next episode.
So, which is familiar. I gave this one a B+, a considerable bump up from from the episode before it. The conversation between the Doctor and Davros, this time being more audible.
Yep.
On average. It starts to get more personal as Davros, and I even forgot that it was obviously a trap for a bit, and
Yep.
it was managed to be invested in Davros's being sad about dying and such.
Yep.
And it seemed like a temper tantrum by someone without a plan.
Yep.
Now, that's probably on me a little bit for not noticing the obvious trap.
Yep.
Maybe I was tired. I mean, he even said, hide there so that we can enact that secret plan.
And then the
Man.
Doctor walks into the room, and
He's like, why don't you go...
You get a
Yeah.
close-up of a cable with eyes.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, Doctor, why don't you go over near those cables?
Go over near those cables where I just told my Snake Man friend to go.
But regardless, Davros, it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And also on Missy's end, Missy is funnier, and her team up with Clara is quite fun to watch. I like the way she trolled Clara, the way that she's constantly using Clara as bait, or just generally disrespecting her in a way which felt jealous, honestly.
Yep.
Why is this person spending time with the Doctor? Obviously, I'm the Doctor's best friend.
Yep.
And which is funny because it's her fault that they're hanging out.
Yep. And it's also, it's her fault that she's not always hanging out with the Doctor.
Yeah.
She keeps murdering people.
And
if
she doesn't
you
get it.
stop murder, look, remember, Tennant was willing to hang out with you even though you were John freaking Sims at the time. You were about to go time travel to the 70s and hang out with DCI Hunt. That's how awful you were. You made DCI Hunt look nice. And Tennant was willing to hang out with you, but now you had to wait until Capaldi. Capaldi's not going to deal with this shit. He's not mopey Tennant.
Let's see.
But if I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. I loved. The thing I love is there's a thing I love in books, TV, film, whatever, which is the situation where the hero and the villain are temporarily not trying to kill each other. Whether this is, and this had two instances of that. One, Clara and Missy wandering around Castle Dalek, not really trying to kill each other, but you're always waiting for Missy to try to kill her.
And then she tries to kill her.
Yep. And the other is when you've got, the hero talking to the villain, having a conversation with the villain. They have the villain in captivity or whatever, and the villain's like, let me tell you my things that I know about you because I am the villain.
Yeah.
And
there's a parallel structure. There are two pairs of people who don't really quite belong together, and yet work together in
Yeah.
a way.
It was very Hannibal Lecter-y.
Sure.
And I like. There's a reason I like Silence of the Lambs. It's not my favorite favorite movie of all time. That's Pain and Gain, and then American Psycho. My favorite movie is by Michael Bay. What type of critic am I?
An original critic.
Yep. So all in all, I gave this a B+ because I love the character interaction. The only problem was I didn't like how much I felt it was shoved in my face that Davos was about to betray him, but I liked seeing them work together. I liked that the Doctor was willing to give Davros a chance, even though he was pretty sure it was a trap.
Yeah.
I liked that. I liked pretty much all of it. There were a
If
couple.
they had cut the parts where it was explicitly a trap, I would have bumped it up to A- from B+.
Definitely, I might have even bumped it up more if they had the Clara Doctor scene at the end was good, and again I also am bumping it down for the continuation of that cliffhanger being shit, and more accurately, the way the Doctor shows up and points a gun at the kid and then shoots the things. That's not the way that you would do it, because you're trying to reassure a small, scared child.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of a war zone. I would have gone the other way around. I think even this Doctor knows enough to go the other way around.
And yeah, one final thought for me is just the scene where Clara's trying to communicate with the Doctor from inside the Dalek suit is great. It's tense. I'm worried, even though
It expanded Daleks in a way that I like, because I've been tired of the expansion of Dalek being. You thought Daleks were just crazy tiny Nazis, but they're actually robots. Isn't that exciting? No, we've got robots. They're called Cybermen.
and other stuff too.
Yeah, we've got enough robots. I want a Dalek that isn't a robot. I want a crazy Nazi in a tank.
Mhm.
So that's what I liked, and yeah, that scene was amazing. That I am a Dalek. It was a good scene. So moving onward to
Under the Lake, I gave this one an A-. It's got a very strong atmosphere. It's good acting. It's mysterious. I'm not quite sure what to expect. It's of course in my favorite subgenre of Doctor Who, the base Under Siege. The atmosphere really carries it.
the atmosphere was great. It was very good. The acting was good. The characters were just non-standard enough to be memorable.
Yeah.
Cast remained entertaining to me.
Yeah.
I gave it an A- as well, because I felt this was an episode that really deserved it. That really pulled it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Good, good cast, good all that, good story, and unlike the Ashilda story, which would come later in the season, spoiler alert, I have a similar criticism to what I originally had. The continuation didn't feel tacked on, because if I were watching a normal episode like this, if I was not watching the Ghosts of Cyber Death, whatever this one is, like, I was not watching a ghost, like, I was not watching this two-parter where
This two-parter, okay.
where we go back and we see all the explanation of the ghosts. If I was not watching this, I would still have enjoyed it, and if it wasn't a two-parter, it ended right there and they all got out, the episode would not have been any longer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was perfectly paced for an episode of Doctor Who. And then, almost as a bonus, you got another episode of Doctor Who after it.
Yeah.
So I liked that. And that's why I gave that one an A-. And,
I can't think of anything else to say. Oh yeah, cliffhanger with the Doctor outside is a much better cliffhanger.
yeah,
Because the question is not just... To be honest, I never thought he would die. But the question is, what is going on?
yeah, the question becomes, what is going on? Basically the question, I don't feel like the shot is misleading me, basically. Here's the thing, I don't like it when a storyteller misleads me. Now, I love it when a storyteller does not it misleads me without explicitly misleading me, which is what happens in a mystery, and what happens in The Sixth Sense, which is a movie I like, and what happens in Undertale, which is The Sixth Sense in game form. So that's the thing I like, and I didn't feel it cheated me. It left me thinking, yeah, why is this? Whereas the previous cliffhanger left me thinking, how does this not... How are you lying to me, basically? Almost. This left me thinking...
What are you going to show me?
Yeah, like, I was intrigued about getting the answer because I was pretty sure the answer was going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
The answer was going to be, like, the doctor is, like, not dead because... Why? Did he die and come back? Did David Tennant regenerate? Did he do what he ended up doing, bootstrapping the paradox? What did he do? So it was a story hook, whereas that previous one turned out to just be the last, like, 10 seconds of the next episode, and didn't even play into it. So, no.
Before the Flood. So the follow-up. I gave it a B. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's rare. I like to not go easy on penalizing an episode for being familiar, because stuff like it had already happened in that show.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't deny that a bootstrap paradox is old news.
Yeah.
And it's been done better. The Fisher King is decent villain. I don't think that the previous episode needed that kind of villain.
This was the last... Here's the thing, because there were weird things like this later in the season. That was the last time, and I talked about this in the later episodes, that this season was self-congratulatory. Really.
Yeah, very on the nose and self-congratulatory. Bootstrap paradox. Look how complicated it is.
Now I love that type of scene. So even though I don't hate bootstrap paradoxes. I don't have that problem with them that you do.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to get into it with you sometime about why, for their benefit, why you don't like them.
Yeah. Sure.
So we can do that later. But I want to say, even though I don't hate a bootstrap paradox, I don't think it's particularly clever, and to a certain extent, the answer was a bootstrap paradox. So, and it opened by telling me it's a bootstrap paradox, and that's something I'm prepared to think. So I don't think you're that clever. But here's the two reasons that I was able to give it a B+ anyway.
Yeah.
And I think if it weren't for all the bootstrapping the paradoxes around here, I might be putting it up at A- even. One, I love the way that a bootstrap paradox was introduced, because I like this type of scene, and I hope I see more of it next season, that the doctor speaking directly to the audience.
Mm-hmm. It feels like an innovation on form that is very effective and very efficient at expressing an idea.
And here,
And later on another episode, Heaven Sent will give us a little bit of an extra edge on these scenes.
Yeah.
Towards understanding them.
Yeah, and now here's the thing, also, and that's something I hadn't even thought of there. But here's the thing. Now, I watch movies and TV shows and all that differently from a lot of other people.
So, that's for the episode.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time wastiness. It's
Yeah.
a little bit slow.
Oh,
I
forgot to say the other thing I loved about it, but I will let you talk.
Yeah, I like that it looped on itself. The stakes were pretty clear, so that's nice. There's a particularly great sequence that's one of the better horror sequences in Doctor Who so far, where the Deaf Commander is searching through the ship. Cass is searching through the base and is getting stopped, and it's a great scene.
And then she goes Daredevil. That was an amazing scene, and that is the other reason I was able to give this a B+. One, I liked the opening scene, and a strong opening and a strong ending to me bump things up a lot.
Alright.
And the other one was, I loved the character of Cass. I want to see Cass more. Every season or two, there's a character or a thing I'm like, I want you to come back. That was Sally Sparrow for me, and I'm still waiting on her. That was River's song. I wanted her to come back. Retroactively, I was mistaken.
Yeah.
But when we saw her, she was very cool, and I was saying I want to see the companion who gets this close. Actually, I think that was the problem with River, was I never saw them get close. So they were always close, and that was the hook for me. But for me, and last season was Rusty the Dalek.
Yep.
For
Rusty
me,
needs to come back.
yeah. For me, Cass is a character I want to see in another episode. I want to see Cass at age 60 is a general in the army and she runs into the doctor. Or I want to see, Cass has gone through all of that and she's happily married and the doctor comes back into her life and things are going to go to shit. Or something. Or Cass's boyfriend gets kidnapped and she needs to save him and it turned out he was kidnapped by Daleks or whatever. And so that's how she managed to... One of these things. I want to see more of her. The previous episode, I thought, interesting take. This character is deaf. I'm happy to see that. And while I don't think one must necessarily bring in characters from minority groups for the sake of having a character from a minority group, I will say, it is interesting that I think it is cool that they have two actors who are from minority groups, underrepresented deaf people and trans people were cast this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying we need to. It's wrong to cast a cisgendered heterosexual white man in a role who has no disabilities and none of that. No, sometimes that's the thing. But the other thing is that there's probably some very good actors out there, including, as we've seen, Bethany Black. I loved her in that role. I'd like to see her in another role. I don't want her to reprise that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I've looked up some of her comedy. Her comedy does not imply to me that she would be good in that role. So she's a great actor, and I want to opening the room to have more actors who are deaf. It means that more good actors will be able to get parts.
Why we want good actors?
Yeah, she was a great actress. She did a good part. She blew me away, and because that actress, and I'm sorry, put up her name.
Sure thing.
Actress was so good in that role. She had such desperation on her face. I thought she was gonna fall over dead, She had it was somebody called. It's like when you watch, DiCaprio in Django Unchained, in the head slamming, give this woman an Emmy before she kills herself. She was great. So, and I want to see more of Cass. I want to see that character. That's why I was able to bump that up to a B+. I'd actually had it previously. I'd had these reversed, as the previous one was the B+. This one was the A-. Remembering the Bootstrap Paradox and in context is why I didn't like this one. I thought this actress was so great in this thing. I loved the horror sequence. The previous one, like I said, it was just she's cool. It's cool to have this character who I have not seen before. Deaf military commander is not a cliche.
No.
And that can add a special little spark. And that's why I loved Cass so much. So, my praise of Cass is what keeps this part from falling. You'll notice I did not say shit about the Before the Flood part of Before the Flood. Because I did not. The answer was a Bootstrap Paradox, and it was alright, and I liked cute little Fangirl, and I'm sorry she died, and I thought her romance with the Glasses Scientist came out of nowhere. I actually would have liked to see more of Glasses Scientist, because there's a certain type of thing that I want to see more of as characters, and that he does, which is, I like reluctant heroes, and I like people who will say, kind of, all right, I'm going along with this, but don't think I'm happy about it. So we might even make this a 2-part video for you guys.
Sure.
If we go long, so we don't want you to be sitting here for all year.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of thoughts. We are thinking people. That's why we like to do this, is because we like to share our thoughts.
Next, we have The Girl Who Died. Now, here's where our reviews start. I gave this, here's where our grades start. I gave this a B- originally, and I'm going to knock it down to a C. So C is my final grade.
Yeah, and just backing up a bit on the previous issue, I did remember, I gave, I guess, quick summary grades of the Under the Lake and Before the Flood previously, and I'd given Before the Flood, Under the Lake a 10 out of 10, so my base grade for Under the Lake was A+, and my base grade for Before the Flood was 7 out of 10, so C. There were some changes there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, moving on to The Adventures of Ashilda.
So, The Girl Who Died, which was not really The Adventures of Ashilda, interestingly. I gave it a C.
Yeah, The Girl Who Died did not play much in The Girl Who Died.
So it's sort of a... I gave it a little more credit before. I'm not sure I remember why. It's sort of very basic episode. There's not much to point out about it that's good. Odin is a little bit ridiculous without ever being sort of laugh-out-loud funny. Ashilda as a character doesn't seem to make very much sense, as we talked about. She doesn't really pop very well. She doesn't feel like a motivated character, and sometimes she does things that are out of character, very insofar as she has a character. So it's a bit of a sort of weaker, forgettable episode without anything other than Ashilda's character that is terribly wrong with it, so I can't give it lower than a C.
At first, I gave it a C+. And my retrospective grade right now I have as a C+, but you make a very good point. I think the reason I justified to myself giving it a C+ was, one, the good doctor who is wronga scene.
Oh yeah,
The wronga scene.
Time Lord.
Yeah, Time Lord triumphant scene at the end, which I think might have given it a bit of a boost. And as for the Viking plot, I think I was judging it as if that thing was an episode that ended 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
Basically. And I think, to be fair to it, probably it really does deserve a C. Okay, here's what I'm saying. I loved Capaldi's Time Lord triumphant moment.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it even more than Tennant's Time Lord triumphant moment.
Yeah.
And it turned out retroactively playing into the season theme very well, even in a way that we wouldn't have seen at the time.
Yep.
And it was very important. So I loved. I did not like this as an introduction to the Ashilda character, who would play on later. But what I'm going to say is I'm going to give. Here's how I'm going to split my grade. Because I am going to say the Viking story, from the Doctor showing up to basically Ashilda's death.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm going to pretend Ashilda didn't die, because if it had ended with Ashilda's death, that would be a really weird, unsatisfying ending.
Sure. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I'm giving it to these people so they understand my thinking.
Excuse me.
I would give that a C-.
Sure.
It was not a great story. It did not have anything that really made me roll my eyes, and it was well enough acted, and did not. It especially bothers me when a story that I think is shit thinks it's smart, and this story did not think it was smart.
Yeah.
So, but I gave it all over. I would give it overall C-, and I would bump it up to C or C+. I'm gonna round up, be nice to it, and say C+. For the 10 minutes after the episode ends,
Yep.
where the Doctor has his breakdown, and how that plays into the season.
And makes a decision that you know will be important.
Yep,
But not to this episode.
yep. And I might even consider, though, knocking it down to a C again for this being a terrible introduction to Ashilda.
Mhm.
In fact, no. This is going to be my last chance to do that. Knocking it down to a C. Knocking it down to a C because Ashilda is important to this show this season. She is way more important than I realized when it started. If she had just left at Exit the Raven, fine, C+, but no, she is so important to this that I cannot say this terrible introduction to your character does not deserve to lose a point. C.
One last thought is just, I didn't emphasize the fact that a lot of the episode is spent sort of wandering around the village and training people, which turns out to be irrelevant.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of stuff which doesn't matter.
Yeah, you cut down your storytelling time to 10 minutes, and your story 10 minutes early, and you wasted most of it.
Yeah.
And you have this theme of Ashilda is storytelling, the power of storytelling versus the power of...
There was space there to talk about that.
Yeah, you
It
could
would
have...
have been more interesting than what they had in the episode on average.
Yeah, you failed there. So C, and only C because you really impressed me with the Time Lord Triumphant.
All right.
Good. Otherwise, the rest of that episode was wrong.
The Woman Who Lived. Now, when we were reviewing this, I gave this an A-, and I felt like I would break with tradition and give it an A-.
Clever.
I gave it an A- because it was a strongly thematic-driven story. Ashilda as / Lady Me / stupid name is an effective antagonist whose motives make sense, whose external memories are fascinating, whose way of dealing with eternity is interesting, and it culminates with her changing.
Mm-hmm.
These are important things for a story.
Yep.
The downsides, I suppose, would be I'm not convinced that the Lion King, whatever he's actually called,
Simba.
Yeah, Simba is a particularly effective villain for this story. It does feel a little bit like, here's generic Doctor Who villainy attacking you at the end, and then it's taken care of.
You know what this felt like to me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to jump you, but this just jumped in my head while listening to you. What that felt like to me was, we have... I'm imagining somebody's pitching this, okay? To hypothetical, I guess, douchier version of Stephen Moffat. Stephen Brofit. He's like, okay, so we've got this Ashilda person, and we're bringing her back. So I've got this great idea. We're going to make her the antagonist and build it all around this, and then the executive, I'm going to say maybe not, Stephen Moffat says, okay, so who's the bad guy? No, Ashilda's the bad guy. Yeah, but who's the bad guy? It's Ashilda.
Shield. I'll spell it for you. No, that's the name of the character played by Macy Williams.
Yeah, Macy. She's playing.
She's the villain. Who's the villain?
Yeah,
and it goes on and on
and
for
it goes
about
on
an hour.
for a while. It's like, no, you need to have a bad guy who gets defeated. It's like, well, she does. Her plan doesn't succeed. Yeah, but that's not very visceral. You don't get a yay moment. I'm not looking for a yay moment. You need the yay moment. You need the bad guy you can kill. Here, look, I just watched The Lion King. There's a Lion King. There. You're welcome.
I think, I never thought to put it in those terms. To make her deceived, even if she knew that there could be some consequences if she were deceived, and she was a little bit reckless and didn't give a damn about human lives or whatever, the more powerful and also in some ways more believable, or at least perfectly believable version of this, is Ashilda has some reason that she has a plan to go into space on her own, and it involves killing people. Or even not going to space, doing something to keep herself interested, that is her plan and her plan alone.
Yeah.
It's not played by anyone, and at the end the Doctor, the Doctor doesn't really kill terribly often, but he also lets her free, because she has genuinely changed.
Yep, and that's another thing is that, this...
By fooling her, we give her an out that she doesn't deserve. I believe that this character is capable of this villainy on her own.
Yeah.
Until she realizes that she does care at the end.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's almost like this Simba character isn't a character. He is an excuse. He is an externalization of her worst impulses, but not in a way that does anything with that. It's just so that we can kill her bad impulse at the end. And he didn't do anything of import. He's 20 years down the line, I'm gonna look back at this episode and someone's gonna say, well, what about that lion guy? And I'll be like, there was a lion? Oh yeah. I mean, I've had conversations today where I was like, oh wait, Donna Noble was in the Silence of the Library?
You forgot about her, I guess, because of River?
Because she was so minor to it. I'll be like, wait, there was a lion? I don't remember a lion. And that is I think the episode's biggest flaw.
Yeah.
At the same time, he actually plays so little of a part, I can't even knock it down too much.
Yeah.
Because she has the exact same character arc she would have if he weren't there. He seems to me, like I said, to exist just so you could shoot someone at the end. And that they could have a
No, my brethren, don't kill me. Bzz, purple.
color.
Of death.
Yes. So.
Let's see, what else?
Color of death. But I gave that. I do have to grade it.
Yeah.
An A. Well, no. Originally I gave it an A. Revised, I'm giving it a B.
Okay.
Which
Quite a tumble. Yep.
I'm revising my revision back up to an A minus.
Ooh, okay. That's how
Revision.
impressive the Shilda is in some ways. In the
Yep.
story.
And that is actually going to, because I'm doing some mental calculation, going to change my overall season grade.
Oh, I don't have an overall season grade. I guess I'll have to do that.
So the,
Don't worry about that right now.
Yeah, it's just an average. So I'm giving it, bringing it back up to an A minus, maybe even because Ashilda is so important again to this season. Now the story itself, I think part of the reason I gave it a B was I didn't love their double act.
I was going to say I liked it pretty well. I was about to praise it when you gave me a chance.
You know what?
This is my robbery. The entrance was great. Doctor putting pressure on her was great, and her guilting him into trying to guilt him into letting her onto the TARDIS was great. There was so much obvious resentment just underneath the surface.
Yep.
And the fact that the Doctor felt bad was obvious too. I thought they made quite a pair.
All right. Now I'm going to say why I didn't quite love this double act. Looking back on it, I think when they were bantering together was when I didn't like it. When she was kind of taking a companion role. And later on in the series, we see this character isn't a companion in really any sense of the word, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of the thing I didn't like. But what I liked here, I did like that first scene when he's doing the "this is my robbery" thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I would have ended when I say double act, I mean the comic double act. I would have ended that part there and focused more on the relationship than the funny dialogue, which I love witty dialogue, but...
Also, like, the burglary scene was a little weak. Because it
was.
wasn't that funny, and it didn't seem like it had a terribly big, important point behind it. Except they had to steal it somehow, and had to show them together, but was that the most interesting way of doing it?
Yeah.
Why not?
And actually, I think that kind of gets to the point. That scene, if you're going to have it in your episode, don't play it for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
They are kind of doing something important here. This should be something this is something I want to see dramatic. I don't want to see them slapsticking around the place.
Well, at least it should be better slapstick.
Well, that too. But even if it was great slapstick, to me, the Doctor is not always a slapstick character. Ashilda should not be a slapstick character at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was putting slapstick in the middle of, okay, remember Star Wars 6, how slapstick the teddy bears are.
No, I don't remember that movie very clearly.
Okay, there is, at the end of Return of the Jedi, a battle in a forest.
Yep.
This is the last stand of the Empire. It's an important moment. It's filled with slapstick teddy bears bopping guys and
Yeah.
bopping themselves in the head. And that's kind of how this feels. Now, this is not that much of an important, but I want to see, partly to believe it in this context, I want to see how much Ashilda is not friends with the Doctor at this point.
Fair enough.
But the parts of the relationship you're talking about, I'd say you were spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm bumping this up, calling it an A- because Ashilda is so important to the series this season, and she is really, this is her establishing story. That previous story could have been entitled Maisie Williams, Viking Novelist, and had the character literally just referred to by the name Maisie, and then this is not actually her, this is a different immortal, and I wouldn't even care.
Mhm.
So,
They tried to make her very different to express how time had completely changed her to be unrecognizable, but they actually went too far.
yeah, there's a point where time changed you, so you're not the person you used to be. And there's a point where no, you're like a clone or something. I can't see the tiniest hint of it, you know? It's like, I can see aspects of who I was in my most annoying Raytheist phases of high school, even though now I'm pretty content, moderate Christian. I can see that aspect of who I was. It's different.
I have one more thing to say about The Woman Who Lived. Sam Swift the Quick. Sam Quick the Swift.
Yep.
He is very funny, and specifically, he's very funny in his dying scene, which supports the theme of the episode. That is one of the best scenes in this season.
Amazing. He was great. He was a good kid.
Was that scaffold scene, and it really worked.
He was really wonderful. In fact, that's another. I almost felt that scene was a little weakened by how comic the rest of the episode was. That would have I think hit home even harder. But I love it, and let's go on to the Zygon
Invasion.
invasion.
So I gave.